You're thinking about starting a podcast, but you keep getting stuck on one question. How do I make money if I have no subscribers? Well, you're not alone. Most people think podcast monetization means sponsorships, ad revenue, a huge audience, and sure, that can happen. But the truth is, the fastest way to make money from a podcast has nothing to do with being able to be paid by that platform. You can monetize a podcast almost immediately if you use the right process. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 ways to monetize your podcast when you have 0 subscribers. And these are based on real conversations we've had with business owners who want to start a podcast to grow their business. Way number 1, monetize through strategic guests. Remember, podcast equals relationship accelerator. So this pretty much means you're going to monetize the podcast by inviting the right people and turning the conversation into a relationship. Think about this. If you start a podcast today, you can invite people who you want to work with, people you want to partner with, people who already have your ideal audience, or potential clients who are already warm but haven't committed to you yet. And here's the key. A podcast is basically a sales call that doesn't feel salesy because you're not pitching them, you're featuring them. You're giving them a platform. You're giving them content, a spotlight, something that they can share. So their guard is down. And while you're talking, they're learning your personality, your values, your vibe, even how you think and how you operate. Here's an example. Let's say you're a DJ. You invite a couple that you've been talking to or a planner you want to work with. You sit down for about 20 to 30 minutes for an episode, and sometimes the episode isn't even edited yet, and they're already like, yeah, we want to work with you. That's a direct monetization. Not from YouTube, not from ads, but from the relationship, because the podcast moved them from cold to connected and fast. That's monetization. Way number 2. Monetize through networking and referrals. Your podcast monetizes through the network effect. This is what most people don't understand. Even if a guest doesn't buy from you today, the podcast creates a connection that can produce referrals, introductions, opportunities, even partnerships, which all leads to future clients. This is where the podcast becomes a lead engine, not just a show. Now, I'm going to give you an example directly from our podcast. I had a podcast conversation where it never was a sales call. There was never a sell intended, just a real conversation. And by the time the guest was leaving, it turned into, hey, do you do real estate photos also? Or, hey, I know somebody that would work great with you. That relationship can pay for a year. The podcast didn't go viral, but it created what matters, leads and connections that turn into revenue. Because when somebody sits with you for an hour, it builds trust, likability, and more importantly, credibility. And those things are what make people want to buy or refer. Way number 3, monetize through trust building shorts. The keyword, repurpose. You can monetize by turning one podcast conversation into weeks of trust building content. Because when people hear clips, they think it's just highlights. But the real power of short form from a podcast is this. It lets your audience learn how you think in a small, easy to consume piece of content without needing them to commit to a full episode. And trust is what converts. Here's what I mean. Let's use this exact topic that we're talking about right now. How to monetize a podcast. I could sit down with somebody on a podcast and have a real conversation about it. We'd break down the 3 methods. Tell stories, give context, and answer the questions people actually have. Then, when that episode is done, I don't just post the full video and hope people find it. I put out short segments where I explain each method, one clip where I explain the network effect and how a podcast relationship can turn into referrals, and then another clip where I explain how to use short form content to educate and build trust. Now, each clip becomes a standalone piece of content that educates the right people. And here's the key. The people who watch those clips aren't just entertained. They're paying attention because they're trying to solve a problem. So even if the clip only gets 800 views, if the right 800 people see it, that can create more business than a viral video ever would. That's how a podcast is monetized. Not because YouTube pays you, but because your content consistently builds trust, positions you as an expert, and creates inbound leads over time. One conversation becomes a content engine, and the engine becomes revenue. So let's recap. If you want to monetize a podcast with 0 subscribers, here are the 3 ways. Strategic guests equals direct bookings and deals. The network effect equals referrals and long-term lead flow. And repurpose clips equals inbound leads through short-form content. And none of these require sponsorships, ad revenue, or a massive audience. You can start monetizing the moment you start using the podcast strategically. And one more bonus tip before you go, a high quality podcast setup also signals something important. It shows you're invested, you're serious, you're not playing around. And that matters because when somebody is deciding who they want to work with, they're making decisions based on trust and perception. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast for your business, don't overcomplicate it. Start simple, be consistent, and use it like a tool, not like a lottery ticket.